How's it going on Thursday, January 23rd, 2025? Sam Thompson, Hall of Fame. The 1894 season was incredible. I have a trivia question for everybody out there. Which player had the best ratio of hits per game played in a season in Major League history among 15,000 baseball players come through the ranks? Which player had the greatest ratio of hits per game played in a season? How many hits? How many games you got played in a season? Well, in the 1894 season, did you know what Sam Thompson did? He played 102 games and got 187 hits. You know what that ratio is? 1.83 hits per game played. Is that a record? Well, let's go over his season, and then I want to find out, did he establish a record that no one else has? Well, 102 games, 451 at bats. He got 114 runs scored. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the 8th time 100 or more runs scored in a season. Sam Thompson. 187 hits, 32 doubles, 28 triples, 13 homers, 149 RBIs. How about that? That's his third highest, 149. 27 stolen bases, 42 walks. He bats .415. He breaks 400 batting. He's had 300. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. This season, 400, .415. And the year before, he went 370. So 2 years in a row, superb batting averages, .415. 466 on base, 696 slugging. Why? Because it was a 32 doubles, 28 triples, and the 13 homers. Gives you the slugging percentage, 696. 314 total bases. That's back-to-back years, 300 or more total bases, and his third time over 300. So the 1894 season, we need to ask a question. Is this the greatest ratio of hits per game played in a season ever of all time? Is this a record? 187 hits in 102 games. Now, we know some other players have gotten more hits, obviously. Ichiro, 262 hits in a season, but I looked it up. His ratio is 1.66 hits because he played 161 games that year. That doesn't beat the ratio that Thompson has. I told you his ratio, Sam Thompson, 1894, 1.83. Does anybody beat that? So I looked some other guys up. George Sisler had 257 hits one year, right? 1920. His ratio, I looked it up, 1.66. That doesn't beat 1.83. So Thompson, does he have the record? I looked up Lefty O'Doul. He got 254 hits in a season. His ratio, 1.64. I looked up Bill Terry. He had 254 hits in a season, 1.64. So they're not coming close to the 1.83. I looked up Hornsby. He had 250 hits, 1.62 ratio. I looked up Cobb. He had 248 hits in a season, 1911. His ratio was 1.69. So he's better than the Sisler, O'Doul, Terry, and Hornsby as far as ratio of hits per game play. But then I kept looking. George Sisler in 1922. Let's bring him up. George Sisler, 1922 season. There he is. He had 246 hits. Now, 1920, he had 257, but that ratio was 1.66. In 1922, George Sisler got 246 games, 46 hits, but it was only in 142 games. When he did the 257 hits in 1920, that was a 154-game season. He played every game. But in 1922, he played less games, yet get 246 hits, 142 games. So I looked up the ratio, 1.73. That is a better ratio than what he had in 1920. 1920, 1.66 ratio. 1922, 1.73. So does he have the record? No. Thompson still has the 1.83. So I was curious, anybody else come close? I looked up a guy named Jesse Burkett. I've covered him on my channel. You know what Jesse Burkett did? In 1896, he had 240 hits. Okay, so that's not a record as far as hits in a season. But did you know he did that in 133 games? 240 hits. You know what his ratio was? 1.80. That beats Sisler's 1.73. But he's still not close to the 1.83 for Sam Thompson. See, ratio of hits per game played in a season. Is there anybody else who beats Sam Thompson? And I kept looking it up. And guess what? I found a guy. His name is Willie Keeler. You know what he did? He had 239 hits in the 1897 season. But you know what's remarkable about it? 129 games. So we got to look at the ratio. I did the math. 1.85 hits per game played that season. Willie Keeler edges out Sam Thompson's 1.83. So here's the answer to the trivia question that I posed. Which player had the best ratio of hits per game played in one season? Who has the highest ratio of all time? The answer, Willie Keeler's 1897 season, where he got 239 hits in just 129 games, gives him a ratio of 1.85 hits per game played that year. And then the guy who I'm covering, Sam Thompson's 1894 season, ranks number 2 all time because he got 187 hits, but it was only in 102 games. What a pace he was on. Do you realize that if Sam Thompson had played a full 154-game season in 1894, he would have ended up with 282 hits. That would have broken Sisler and Ishiro's mark of hits in a season. Ishiro has the 262 hits, granted 161 games. Sisler, 257 hits, granted 154 games. If Sam Thompson had played 154 games, he would have gotten 282 hits because of his ratio of 1.83 hits per game that year. How about Willie Keeler? I just told you he beat out Sam Thompson's 1.83, right? Because Keeler in, let's see, let's go back to Keeler. Yeah, here he is. I got him here. Keeler. When he did the 239 hits, he did it in 1897. He did it in 129 games. Okay, so that gave him a 1.85 hits per game played. If he plays, he missed 25 games. So multiply 1.85 by 25 more games. That gives him about 46 more hits. If he's on that pace, right? He's on that pace that he was, such a year he was having. That would have given him 285 hits in that year if he played every game and kept up the same pace. I did not know that Willie Keeler and Sam Thompson hold the record for the greatest ratio of hits per game played in one season. What do you think of that? That's a very good company to keep. Keeler and Thompson can boast and say, we were on a pace, both of us. Keeler's on the pace for 285 hits, and Sam Thompson was on the pace for 282 hits because of their ratio. Oh, my God. That would have broken the 262 by Suzuki and the 257 by Sisler. Is it possible that a guy can get 280 or maybe even 300 hits in one season if he establishes a ratio of, 1.85 or even 1.9 or even 2.0 hits per game played? A guy would average 2 hits in a 154 game season. Let's say just average that. Because what you do is some games you go 2 for 4, right? 2 for 4, 2 hits, 2 hits. Other games you may go 0 for 4, 0 for 5, but you make up for it by going 3 for 4 or 3 for 5 or 4 for 4, 4 for 5, or even getting 5 hits a game, even 6 hits in a game. Maybe you break out and get 7 hits in one game, which players have done. So what you do is, over the course of the season, if you're averaging 2.0 hits per game, what would that be in a 154 game season? You'd have 308 hits. Is it possible that in baseball history, someone will get 300 hits in one year? All he has to do is average 2 hits a game. You can have some offers. You can go 0 for 5, but you have to make up for it by going 5 for 5 in another game. And players do that. They go 5 hits in a game, right? A lot of players get multiple 4-hit games throughout the year, and they get a lot of 3-hit games, 2-hit games. So the offers wouldn't hurt you as long as you were averaging the 2.2 hits per game played. You can get 300 hits in a year. You'd have to have a year for the ages. And what I'm pointing out here is that Keeler and Thompson were on that pace if they had just played the full season that year. All right, 1894, a lot of fun on that one. I didn't realize those records. But if you dig deep into the stats, you can find out some of this. When I looked at Sam Thompson's 1894 season, it says he batted .415. I said, whoa, you broke .415, but it was just 451 at bats. If he had gotten 500, maybe 600 at bats, could he have maintained 400 that year? Maybe. But how about the 187 hits? His 102nd game of the year. Let's say he started the year and game 102, he's at 187 in hits. Plays the rest of the year, gets to 154 games. That would have given him 282 hits. Anyways, he didn't do it. He only played the 102 games. All right. Good stretch right now for Sam Thompson. 1893, 370 with 222 hits. Then in 1894, he goes .415 batting average. Hall of Fame. All right, next video. 1895. I'm out.